Good morning. Welcome to this where are we? Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville. Yes. Right. Greater Central Texas. Okay. And we're here to talk about joy and praying without ceasing. And it's an interesting conversation. And for some reason, I want to share with you what has made me think about that. Tuesday nights, I'm part of a group that Power leads, and on that study group, we're studying the book, The Eye of the Storm. Okay? And this last Tuesday in reading, some interesting things came up, which got me thinking. So I'm going to share with you my thinking. And what we're going to come out with this is consciousness. Okay? So, what it says is, and the idea behind this is that everything that happens, everything somebody says is a lesson or something that is teaching us what we need to do to become more effective as a human being. And Gary Simmons is a very interesting guy. I forget, he's like a
martial artist.
Huh?
Martial artist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big time. Like, I was going to say 3rd or 4th degree black belt. And he has applied it into spiritual conversation. And in this, he said the person or person's situation that occurs is not against you, at least not insofar as being an obstacle to your highest good. So anything that happens that looks like it's holding us back is actually a signal saying, hey, this might be something holding you back. And I started thinking about it, because victim mentality is very, very high within our culture right now. And everybody's looking for things that keep me from moving forward. And what's interesting is the true spiritual principles that come through are saying these are the things that show us what's holding us back. And so there must be a power beyond that once we let that go that handles things automatically. And I started thinking about Ho'oponopono. Now, we dealt with Ho'oponopono 3, 4, 5 years ago. B is a student of it, spent years with it. And I got, the original book is called Zero Limits. Joe Vitale is the individual that wrote out the story about a psychologist working in Hawaii. Okay, and that story is really, really amazing. I'd like to share it with you because it gives us an indication of how do we move forward in our spiritual life. So the stories are really simple, and I know most of you have heard it, but I might do it again. Because we keep thinking things are in our way. In other words, I have lack because I can't do this, or somebody's holding me back, or the person that I love isn't loving me enough, whatever the relationship to life is. So it gets very, very interesting. And Dr. Hugh Lin is and was a psychologist who took a job as the head of a criminal hospital, mental hospital for the criminally insane. And he took the job, and in his contract, he specified certain things. First thing to know is that they couldn't keep directors because the violence was so strong in that mental hospital that they couldn't keep staff. Staff were concerned about their personal safety. It's well known that if you had to walk down a hallway in that mental ward, you walked beside the walls so you didn't have your back to anything. Okay? They had a turnover, I forget. Some people would come in for a month and leave, the staff. And it was violence after violence after violence. And he took the job, and stipulation was that he would not counsel or talk to any of the patients. And that it was his job to correct the problems, minimize the violence, and maybe reach the point where they didn't need him anymore. Okay? And what he did was, he applied the principles of Ho'oponopono. In that area, there's a religious conversation known as Una, and people that were priests in that environment called Kahunas. And he had that training, and he had worked with a lady by the name of Morna, M-O-R-N-A-H. And she was let's call her a guru in the spiritual conversation in the Hawaiian spiritual context. And it's a simple process. And the process is what he calls cleaning your subconscious. In other words, we have within us, and Valerie was very, very clear, there's one power, one presence in the universe. Everybody get it? Which means there's no power that creates evil. And that's, we say that very, very simply. There's one power, one presence. But you understand what we're saying. And I'm talking to people that you've been in this for years. You've been at it longer than I have. And so, what keeps us? How come we're not walking on water, if I can use that terminology, okay? What is the possibility for us as human beings? And we go back to the idea of heaven. Heaven is a state of complete awareness that everything is good. I have no issues. Anybody familiar with that? I have plenty of resources. I have everything I need, all the love I need, all the health I need. And everything is, I'll use the word calm, cool, copacetic, which we talk about Shambhala, Shambhala, all of the mystical, perfect paradises that are in the religions throughout the world. So if there is that state of being, how do we get there? And I'm becoming more and more aware that Jesus and Paul were sharing ideas to help us get to that point. And this simple process of Ho'oponopono is part of that conversation. Okay? Now it's interesting, if I remember where I have it marked, there is a definition, what does Ho'oponopono mean? Here it is. In Ho'opono, Ho means to make, do, and create in Hawaiian. Pono means balance, goodness, correctness, perfect order. Okay? Ho'oponopono is a method of creating perfect order and balance to heal a situation. So healing means, if you can understand this, healing takes us back to our original position. Like if you heal something, you eliminate the problem that's creating the problem. Did I see that right? Okay. So we are talking about cleaning the subconscious mind of all of the trash that has accumulated over the years in our consciousness and returning us to the Christ self. So that, and I spent years working on goal setting and motivating people. And the idea was if you repeat something often enough, you can create that. And we are creative beings. The kingdom of heaven is within. We do have the power to use our creative ability by thinking to create what we want. But I'm realizing now, and that this is what Yulin proved, that what I'm doing is still taking human behavior and forcing it into something that I want. Creating a picture of what I want and holding it long enough so that I bring it into form. And the idea is that within each of us is a code. It's called the Christ code. And that code is already the perfection we're looking for. The problem is it's all covered over with, I was going to use crap. Mud. You can use whatever you choose to. And in the story of Dr. Yulin and that criminal hospital is the understanding that it's really cleaning up rather than adding to. So what happened? Yulin, all he did was, he did not personally talk to any of the patients. All he did was have an office. He locked his doors a certain number of hours every day and took the folders out of all the patients and looked at them and repeated the Ho'oponopono words. And the Ho'oponopono words we're going to put up. Okay? Those are the words. Now, the Bible verse that was up there was, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so, see, here we are, right back to what Jesus was teaching 2,000 years ago. Okay? So the renewing of your mind means that taking the mind back to its normal state of being, which is the Christ self. Okay? And the simple phrase, I love you. Okay, now, I love you, we're talking to whom? The God within us, not something out there. Because we keep looking out there, it's in here. So I love you. And I love you, God, and God is here. So I love you. Next phrase is, I'm sorry. Now, anybody agree that we need to forgive ourselves and others and the universe? And if I honestly believe that God and I are one, who created the mess? God didn't. Okay? And who else? Nobody outside of me did it. Somehow I have to forgive myself. Okay? Now, next step is, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Okay? Now we're not asking anything other than the higher power within us. And then at the end, it's the way Dr. Gillen puts it in the words is, it's courteousness or to compliment God and say thank you. Because it finishes it and it agrees that it's done. Okay? Now, it's a simple formula. It really is. And I've had a tendency to overlook it. I want to thank, Valerie's conversation on Tuesday night in the book, The Eye of the Storm, created me going back and looking at this. So it's really all there. It's so simple, and I have a tendency to want to make things complicated. I'm pulling out books out of my library looking for old things, okay? It's amazing, okay? So I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Now, all he did was look at the pictures and read the write-up of all of the patients, one at a time for a given amount of time. He doesn't say how much time, but he was usually spending 5, 6, 7 hours a day in his office. Okay, and all he did was that. Okay, and within 3 years, they had to close the hospital because there were no patients there anymore. They had been healed. So what happened? And this is the key behind Luna and the whole idea. Our energy, your energy, creates the world around us. And we don't believe that because we don't, it's out, somebody out there is influencing me. You know, somebody did it to me. But the truth is, our energy is creating the world we live in. And it's accumulated, it's called consciousness. Anybody familiar with the idea of consciousness? It's everything that I believe rolled into one ball, creating my life. And everything around me that influences me. Now, I don't like to admit that because, we have, it's like, why am I losing my hair? Okay. or why am I getting old? There's all these issues. However, the kingdom of heaven is within. See, we keep going back to teachings of Jesus. And that simple phrase is what changes things. Now, what's interesting is, Job came back and wrote this book as a follow-up because he was criticized and said that the whole story about that criminally insane group was false. It was a lie to sell books. Anybody ever been criticized? Okay. Laughed at, if you will.
I've been criticized a
Right.
ton.
Accused of being Pollyanna. Okay, what do you mean? It's impossible. You got to do this, you got to do it that way. And those are the rules of the world. So it's right back to a simple story about a group that makes a difference. And we look around us and we complain about the world. Okay, oh my God, it's hot. Now, I'm not saying we create the weather, but produce. Who knows? What is consciousness? Okay? And what is my personal consciousness? And how much effect do I have? And the biggest thing I am learning I have to do is appreciate myself. Anybody familiar with loving yourself? Because the world doesn't want that. You're accused of being a maniac, egomaniac, excuse me. What are some other words? It's kind of like, you can't be. Okay? And when you're in the middle of it, and what is it, hits the fan, we go into doubt. Because it can't be possible that this simple idea can change my consciousness and make the world different. And do I really have an effect on who's around me? Okay? And it's not ready, when I'm feeling like a victim, I don't want to hear that I did it to myself, which is what's going on right now. Okay? So it's a very, very interesting conversation to me. And yet, going back, we say God is good. We say there's one power, one presence in the universe, which is number one principle. Okay? And everything that happens to me happens through my own thinking. Then I either have to believe it and apply it. Now, when it comes back to a changing, cleaning, and he keeps talking about, Dr. Hewlin talked about, he never talked about clearing, it was all cleaning the subconscious, keeping the subconscious back to its original state. And he is saying that this is the formula to do it. No, I don't disagree. You're saying all kinds of things this morning because in Tommy's conversation, there's many paths. Okay? So there are many paths, there are many ideas. But the many ideas go back to cleaning, denying, and affirming, and the whole process. The problem I'm realizing, if there's a problem, is we make it complicated.
So much of our trial and tribulation about life is false beliefs. One thing that I'm curious about is that second sentence. Maybe I apologize rather than I'm sorry, because we have to be really careful with our I am.
You're right. See, again, you can adjust it.
Yeah.
See, it's my consciousness, it's your consciousness. Okay, I am working on that. I also work on another one, which is I dedicate all thinking to union. And union to me is returning to my Godhood. Because I am one with you and with everything. So I am not little Robert Test, I am God in expression. And so, but it's a union thing, a very humbling thing. Okay? So what phrase do you want to come up with?
I was going to say, can I respond to Valerie? Because
Sure.
I was first exposed to the whole porno about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's a big
And
deal.
it has really transformed me in the way that I forgive myself, but also the way that I forgive others. And the prompts, depending on how you translate them and stuff, show up a little bit differently. But it was really these 4 movements of I see value in you, whether you're talking about yourself or somebody or something. I see the value. Second part is you have compassion. There's pain. There's something that's misaligned or something that's not what you want it to be. The third is I play a role in it.
That's key.
And the fourth is thank you for teaching me about this. Thank you for allowing me to have this moment and be a part of it, even though it may be painful as heck in this moment.
That last point, well, thank you. See, that's what he came up with later. When I say he, Joe Vitale with Dr. Bulin, is the 5th one.
I totally get it. I just, in our conversation about our words matter, it's just a suggestion to replace I'm sorry with I apologize.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to change the content of it at all. But just like if you take this
She's
and
gonna stick
use
with it.
this, it's just just being careful with what your words are.
Yeah.
So that's good.
He did that 5th one, which was I apologize for my part of making this decision. Okay? But this is the divine, divinity. See, the key is you are divine. And when I'm talking to the divine that I am. And I'm asking for forgiveness. Okay? And that's the cleaning part. Now, is there any... The key to it is so simple, we make it complicated. Now, it is a repetition over and over and over again. It's creating a consciousness of who I really am. And so if you take a look at it, it is, I love you. I love you. It's a universal thing. As a matter of fact, Morna, who's the original kahuna that taught all this, and she was really censored by whoever it is, because it was all secret and nobody was supposed to know about it. So it all came out, and Morna's the one who did it. But she taught, please forgive, I love you, please forgive me, that's it. So think about that. If I really love you and the universe and ask for forgiveness, does that occur? And that's the cleaning that occurs. Okay, now can you add to it? Yeah, sure. There's all kinds of conversations here. But I'm realizing that I have made it complicated. And I'm sharing that. And, why are we sitting here with, 8, 9, 10 people? Okay, now, it's not in numbers, it's not in anything. But right now, the world is looking for answers. And the answers are within themselves, but everybody's looking outside, so how do we bridge that gap? Where do we go with that? And we're in that process. I'm making plans. I have to talk to Randy here one of these days. But I want to get people together and spend 4 hours doing that whole class that Larry and I went through last month. And I've got it. I've got a whole presentation. You can do it here and put it on the TV and to share that with you and then bring that into Chain. And we're going to be updating our website. We got a whole new website coming in. We just wrote the check, believe it or not, for that website. Thank you. And but what are we going to put on the website? So we as a group need to make those decisions. But I'm going to say it needs to be around this. Who are we? What are we doing? What are we teaching? And when we make it too complicated, we lose people. Now, could we go deeply down? Yeah, certainly. Matter of fact, I pulled out the inner life, which is back to, anybody familiar with the Theosophical Society in India? Okay, we don't need to go there because that's nice stuff. But there's all kinds of traditional issues right back that handle it from here. So I don't want to talk about that. But those are the conversations we're going to have. Because we're at a point where it's time to break out and bring these ideas to a larger group. Okay? And by the way, that group is not, that group, you know what the demographics are? Did we share that before? The demographic really is females in 45 to 75 group, because you're the folks that influence them. Do you know that? Because if Madeline decides to go someplace, I go. Agree? Okay? It's interesting, it really is. And is it in the youth? The youth is wandering right now, and the youth is looking for leadership, and where's leadership? It's in youth. So we're looking at that whole thing. But we're right back here. How do I create the world that I've been looking for? Stop looking for all the bells and whistles and go back to basics. Okay? That was my whole idea this week. And thank you, you started it Tuesday night. Now, why joy? Well, the law of attraction says, what I think about, I create. And when I'm thinking about problems, and I'm thinking about a top, and I'm thinking about I don't like it here, or I'd rather live someplace else, or whatever it is, what am I creating? More of what I don't want. And how do you be happy? It's a choice. It's absolutely a choice. Can I be happy and joyful when the world's coming apart around me? Yes, the answer is yes. It's a perception, it's a decision. And the next phrase is pray without ceasing. And one of the things to understand is every thought's a prayer. So is everybody thinking all the time? I don't know about you, but you can't stop it. The key is, what are you praying for? Because if we really believe the law of attraction works, every thought creates consciousness, which creates a lifestyle. Then every time I think, I'm creating something, so what am I creating? Okay? And so the answer there is, I decide what I create And the best thing to do is be cleaned up so that God can create what I'm predestined to do. Now, predestination is not a nasty word, so I'm not going to go too much more into that. But you see, we come here with a plan, and we're here to do something, but it gets all clouded up with all the problems of the world. And that natural thing that we're here to do doesn't come through until we clean it up, get rid of the junk, and let it come through spontaneously. Okay? Comments, more comments. So, frankly, I started. Okay? Paul, thank you for putting up the. Paul had our 6 o'clock in the morning class. Pat Arben is there with me. Kathleen's with me. Okay? And wouldn't it be interesting? All we do is open with the daily word, and then we spend, it's about 26 minutes in silence, and then we close with the Lord's Prayer. It's really difficult. Okay? Wouldn't it be interesting to make a commitment to bring in and be part of that and do that for 25, 26 minutes, quietly every morning? Okay, now I'm not saying that's key, I'm just saying that's the intention. Now, the other thing that was up was, the eye of the storm, which Valley's doing Tuesday night, and was doing on Sunday mornings. And the books we share are books to have breakthrough. Okay? V is doing the 5 unity principles on Tuesday night, same time that Valley's class is. We're doing every Wednesday, we do Course of Love. And if you ask, Course of Love is an unusual thing. Yes, it is advanced, but it makes a difference, okay? So we do these things to create a consciousness and continue that throughout the week. So that's why we do it. Okay? The only problem is you have to use it. Right?
Practice.
None of this stuff is good unless we do it. It doesn't make any sense. And it's kind of like, oh, okay. I don't know what this is saying. I really don't. Because what would happen if we really did that? And it's not easy to do it because you start and then monkey mind takes you away. I can do it for 5 minutes and then it's gone. And I'm wondering about something. And the key to it is we're going to do it 6 minutes and then 8 minutes and 9 minutes. It takes time to recondition the mind. And a lot of you in that process, okay? But find something. Or Valerie wants to change a word, that's fine. Do that. As long as you know that is making you clean out that subconscious part of what's holding us back. Okay? So I'm finished. Anybody else? Randy.
Did I need help with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was going slow.
Oh, it was? Yeah, I'd like to touch on what Valerie said about, in our meditation about joy. Now, I hold a lot of tension up in my shoulders.
Yes.
And when we started thinking about joy, we were starting the meditation, and the more I started thinking about joy, or the more I started going into a meditation with joy, I could feel my shoulders just start to relax. And all of the stuff that we bring with us, not intentionally, but what we live with and what we perceive for ourselves and what we feel like other people perceive on us, that joy is a special way of just letting it go.
Yep.
And it is so cool what one word can do, like the word love. Those words can emphatically change your life, your thinking, and what you bring to the table for others.
Love.
Man,
Joy.
it's amazing.
Peace. Those are all words that enter.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought I'd comment on it because it went right there, right in front of me. I just, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And see, I go back, it's like, and from my background, because I come from that fundamentalist background, they absolutely destroyed the conversation. Because you're guilty, you're sinful, and you can't be enjoyed if you're a sinner. Okay? So, the work is to be done. The word joy, bliss is another word. Joy is a real spiritual term. Happiness is a secular text, in my opinion. Joy is what you're talking about, that spiritual quality of, you can't even describe what it is. Yes? And here, the Apostle Paul, 2,200 years ago, saying 2 keys. Joy all the time, and what's the second one? Pray without ceasing, which means think something good, which is suggesting is that. Could be another one that I like is I'm rich, well, and happy. Every phase of my life is in divine order. Whatever it is for you. But it's changing that thought, because when you're out there and somebody cuts you off, or somebody stops at a green light, or something happens with going to okay, rather than okay. So the powers that we have are unlimited, and it's up to us to clean it out so that it can express itself. Finished. Well, I'm waiting to see if anybody else has something to say.
I just love the be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yep.
Like, look at things differently. Like, the whole thing about Eye of the Storm is that every interaction is information.
Yep.
Everything that happens to your relationship is for you.
Yep.
And when you look at it that way, when you look at everything is there to give you information and to help you grow, and to help you grow in Christ consciousness.
Yep.
There's a responsibility with that. There's a responsibility to be aware, to be in tune. Paula loved how you described this as a move. Like, each one of these is a movement. Each part of this is a process that you're consciously doing. You're aware. You're in the spirit, and that it's you. Like Reverend Tess said, it's just so easy to get drawn out of the present and to go into the past, or to try to go into the future. So just the consciousness at which this takes.
Consciousness is the key word. And there is one other thing. Once you really start this, you stir things up.
Now, be prepared to finish it. Now, no, that's a key.
It is.
Be prepared to finish it.
Yeah.
Because if you're just dabbling in there, you're going to dip a toe and you're going to, that's nice, and then walk away. It's an instant in time. If you're prepared to walk through it, then it will change your life.
You're on a path, and that path has to be continued. That's the conversation that we really need to bring. That it takes time. It's a path to walk on, and it's a faith issue. Knowing that where I want to go is there. So thank you. I am finished. I've had enough.
Paul has one more.
All right, go ahead.
I was going to just tie together what you two were saying, because for Randy, the words, I think sometimes it is helpful for us to hear the words or to feel that energy from others. It's great when we feel joy.
Yeah.
Or when we hear that word and it stirs within us. But I really believe that a lot of times we're here to stir it in others. And one of the things, I don't quite meditate the same way in the morning, but part of my daily practice is there's a list of key people in my life. It's about a dozen people. And each morning I stop and consider each of those people. Think about them. Pray about them. What do they need to hear today? What do they need from Paul today? What do they require? And I think about, what do I love about that person? What are they going through that they could use my love from?
There's a healer right there. That's exactly
where
what
do
it's
they need
about.
forgiveness? And,
Exactly.
and here's the piece that I have come to appreciate. I will often send these folks a little one-liner message, or a little meme, or a little something, and it's without context. Hey, I believe in you today. Hey, thank you for stirring joy in my
No
life.
purpose.
Hey, and I will get messages back. Oh my gosh, you don't realize how much I required hearing that this morning. You don't know how you just spun my day in the right direction. And I'm thinking, it was a benign little thing, but it's what came through me this morning of, Daniel needs to hear this, or John needs that, or Sherry needs to know that it's okay. And sometimes I literally just send messages like, it's okay. And those people, we are the vessel to bring that word that they required somebody to echo to them in that moment. And so it's a way for us to be present and be a part of it.
Okay. Anybody
Is
else?
this getting picked up on this thing? That would be great.
I mean,
What?
I just feel like that's why we're here, right? That is why, in all of Paul's teachings about encourage others and be there for each other, I mean, that is why we're on this planet. And when we stay so inwardly focused on trying to be safe and secure and okay, then we forget to be that Christ consciousness outward.
Good.
That's,
So,
that's beautiful.
everybody has their prayer list? Yeah, I'm not kidding. What your prayer list? Who do you pray for every day? Okay. Off we go.